Good morning and welcome to Nantucket Cottage Hospital's Community Health Initiative Grant Recipient Breakfast. I am very pleased to be representing the hospital team today as we award more than $760,000 in grants to our community partners to address the island's most pressing health needs. How extraordinary is that? First and foremost, I want to thank the hospital's generous donors who have provided the funds for our community health initiative through their incredible gifts to our capital campaign. This is from our community to our community. 5% of the project costs for our new hospital will be invested in community health programs outside the walls of the hospital over the next 4 years through this community health initiative, totaling more than $4 million, so this represents a unique and historic opportunity for our island. I also want to recognize the dozens of staff and volunteers who've been part of this process, including the sector groups, the steering committee, the Community Benefit Advisory Council, the Nantucket Cottage Hospital Advisory Council, the Community Foundation for Nantucket, and our hospital's Board of Trustees. The names of all these people are listed in your program book. And if you were part of this effort at any level, I would like you to stand now and be recognized. This was a lot of work. And as you can see, it was truly a community-wide effort to identify and prioritize the island's top health concerns, develop a comprehensive plan to address them, and then solicit and rigorously review the proposals that came forward. This process was a tremendous collaboration among island residents and organizations and has allowed the hospital to engage with the community in new and meaningful ways, which we appreciate. In addition to our community partners, staff, and volunteers, I'm also pleased to welcome today our State Senator Julian Cyr, who has personally outreached to the island in ways I've not experienced before. Thank you for that. And members of the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, including Deputy Director for Government Affairs Tom Mangan and Hallie Reeves from its Office of Community Health Planning and Engagement. Where is Tom and Hallie? Thank you. The guidelines and ultimate oversight of our community health initiative is through the Department of Public Health. And so we are pleased to have them here with us today to see the results of this multi-year process. And now I'd like to welcome two Nantucket Cottage Hospital staff members who are key players in this effort and served on the Community Health Initiative Steering Committee, Brenda Johnson, the Clinical Program Director for our new hospital, and Courtney O'Neill, the Executive Director of the NCH Foundation, which raised the funds that make today possible.
Wow. Thanks, Margot. And thank you for being here. So Margot introduced myself as Brenda Johnson, and for many of you know me, some of you don't, but I'm the Clinical Project Director for this new building. And I can remember sitting in the meeting with Margot and Frank Kovac, who's the Executive Director, and he goes, "Okay, Brenda, you take Factor 9. I had no idea what he was talking about. I can assure you I left that office and I went over to Jason Graziadei and I said, "Jason, we have a project to do." And so this has been a truly amazing process for our hospital and for our island, as Dr. Hartman alluded to, and I want to explain briefly how we got here. So I went over to Jason, and the rest is history. What we did was we decided that it was important to engage the community in the decision-making of how these funds should be allocated. It wasn't a hospital decision, it was a community decision. So this process began way back in September 2016. We felt it was important to do a community health improvement plan instead of a community health needs assessment, which is a lot of talk, but it made sense at the time for us, and it still does. It started with a series of public forums in which we asked the members of the community to share their top health concerns. We went to the Spanish Mass. I've never been to Spanish Mass before. I can tell you it's an experience. and at St. Mary's to hear this from the Spanish-speaking population. And we had about 200 people running around the church. It was great. And it was great to get their input. We had groups at the Nantucket High School. We had small groups with different community outreach members. And those were followed by a prioritization session at Fairgrounds, which was attended by more than 70 people to rank the health issues that were identified, as well as 2 subsequent strategy sessions to develop goals and objectives to address them. And what we came out of there was the Community Health Improvement Plan. It got very confusing for people to talk about community health initiatives, CHIPs, CHIs, etc. So, I mean, really, aren't you confused with the CHIP and the CHI and the this and the that? And trust me, there's only a couple of us that got it straight all the time. And so what we did was we decided to call it Healthy Nantucket 2020. So when you go to the hospital website or when you go to the Community Foundation's site, you'll see Healthy Nantucket 2020. And that is our community health improvement plan. I do want to take a minute just to thank Ben Woods and Hallie Reeves from the DPH, because in this process they were very instrumental in guiding us in through this process. So anyways, we did the CHIP, aka Healthy Nantucket 2020, and it was divided into 4 sectors based on what the community identified. That was behavioral health, women's and children's health, access to health care, and access to housing. And Healthy Nantucket 2020 served as the roadmap that we used to guide the investments of these funds, and I think it really served us well. In early of 2017, after we did this, we assembled groups of amazing volunteers, and when I say amazing, they are amazing. They met weekly, they met for hours, they were from all over the community, so it was a very diverse group. So it represented our diverse community around each of the 4 priority health needs, which we call the sector groups. And these volunteers met continuously and came up with action steps or strategies to implement the Healthy Nantucket 2020 plan. They also reached out to the potential grant applicants to solicit interest and provide information. The grants were due in mid-August, after which the sector groups began an intensive interview and review process. I can tell you that I actually went to some of the interviews, as did, I'm sure, Courtney and Jason and Kathy Ward, and it was grueling, actually, but it was very informative, and it was a wonderful effort to see the collaboration between the different groups on the island, or if there wasn't enough collaboration, we sort of let them know perhaps there should be. But anyways, they put a lot of time and energy into vetting the proposals along with our Community Benefits Advisory Council, and then, of course, the Board of Trustees. So this was truly a community-driven process with extensive input in many perspectives, and I think the result is going to be a wonderful benefit for our community. I have to say, I've worked at Nantucket Cottage Hospital since 1975, and this is, I think, one of our proudest moments for the community. So, without further ado, we'd like to announce the recipients of this year's grants and ask each of you to come up to make some brief comments about what they will be doing with these funds and how it will benefit the community. So Courtney's going to read the names. No, you can read the names.
Oh, we'll do it together.
I've talked enough.
Now we're doing it together.
Okay, well then.
We did this together, we're doing this together.
Okay, so anyways, so go ahead.
All right, the first recipient is the Artists Association of Nantucket with Cecil Baron Jensen accepting.
Ooh, well, aren't I lucky to get to go first? It is such an honor, and I'm so grateful to be part of this magnificent effort for this island and this community. So thank you for all the work you guys have done, and thank you to the community and to the supporters and donors. This is amazing. So our plan is to teach classes in the visual arts in a program called Healing Through the Creative Process at our new building at 24 Amelia Drive, which is a beautiful new space that we opened in 2015 for art classes, and we teach there all year long. But we are experts in art. We have teachers, we have artists, we have supplies, we've got facilities. So our plan is to partner with behavioral health and mental health organizations across the island to provide art classes for children and adults. Our plan is to start with 6 each this year, 3 for adults, 3 for children, and then grow the program with ultimately the goal of having a full-time staff person who manages our efforts to provide wellness classes year-round to this wonderful population. I just want to say that our plan, is, in a nutshell, because I know I have to make it short, is to provide healing, therapeutic, joyful, messy, inspiring, creative, wonderful classes in the arts for children and adults throughout the year. That's it. Thank you.
So next up is Gosnold on Nantucket, and Allie Anderson, Vice President of Outpatient Services, will be accepting. Yes?
Yes. Oh, and this is Katie Patolo.
Absolutely. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. It's very exciting and a wonderful opportunity. And first, I really want to thank Ray, our grant writer and former CEO and president of Gosnold, because I think without him, this wouldn't have happened. I think he really knows our vision and was able to put it on paper and really be able to get everyone else to see what Gosnold wants to do and what we can do on this island. So I say thank you to you, Ray, for doing this, because without you, it wouldn't be. So, and then thank you, obviously, to the community for seeing this vision and willing to give us the opportunity for us to move forward with it. So some of the things that we are going to be looking at doing with this grant, I think, are really enhanced services for the community, being able to provide access to these behavioral health and dual diagnosis for the community and the residents that live here year-round. So some of those services that we will be doing is we will be working with Kevin Marshall and the police here for opiates and those with overdoses. So providing care to those within kind of 72 hours to see about helping them receive more services and getting them connected. Because what we've done in previous off the island, I guess, is that providing these services, we've been able to get about 77% of these people continued care, more so than they've ever been able to receive. Typically, people kind of turn away from it, so we're really looking forward to that. And Katie, why don't you talk about some of the other services that we're doing, because Katie here is the director on the island, and she'll be kind of following through on this initiative.
Yeah, so briefly, one of the exciting opportunities that we have with this grant is to work with primary care, the Nantucket Cottage Hospital, and other nonprofit organizations to really integrate behavioral health into our systems of care. And so we are working with Dr. Leprie's Addiction Solutions, pediatric practices, and now through this funding opportunity, we will be able to provide clinical social workers available to doctors when patients kind of show up to their spaces with distress or symptoms of depression or have some concerns or questions about, do I need counseling? What would that look like? And so through this integrated project, we're able to provide direct, warm handoff care to folks when they show up in the emergency room at their primary care offices, and make sure that we're doing decent community outreach to assure that patients on this island know where to go and who to turn to and places to go for health care and support as it relates to mental health and addiction. We really want to look at preventing folks from waiting in isolation until their symptoms become so severe that it's really emergency. And so through this opportunity, we're really going to be able to provide some comprehensive prevention care, which really goes a long way for these disorders. So I look forward to collaborating with all of you folks. What a wonderful breakfast. Thank you so much for having us.
And one last thing, we are located at 35 Old South Road. It's a lovely building that we have remodeled, so please come by and see it. We are there.
We have, next is the first grant for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI. This is their education and outreach grant. They're going to be receiving 2 today. So I'd like to welcome Suzanne Franzuto to the stage.
The reason we're hugging these people is because we know them. Okay, we just wouldn't normally go and hug people.
Yes. I am accepting this award today on behalf of Jackie Lane, Executive Director of NAMI Cape Cod and Islands. I became the local program coordinator for NAMI on Nantucket November 1st when this grant had already been written, and I'm really excited to be able to be on the ground level where we can start working together to make this happen. So with this grant, NAMI Cape and Islands will develop and implement a year-long marketing campaign promoting the many social services. So we're trying to pull everything together by providing easy and non-judgmental access to these services. We want people to know they're not alone in their efforts to cope on their own or on behalf of family or friends. The campaign will include print, radio, public television advertising, as well as posters staged in strategic locations. There will be a non-emergency telephone number available 24 hours a day for people to access information. With this grant, NAMI will be able to serve the entire community of year-round residents, seasonal visitors, and our summer people by providing a clearinghouse for information on mental and behavioral health services available on the island. This is not a solo effort. We invite island input and input from a lot of the other organizations on the island who are members of the Behavioral Task Force. We hope the message of caring and services will become imprinted on the collective mind of the Nantucket community. Thank you.
Next, we have a grant for health imperatives, and we have Julia Kehoe, President and CEO, accepting. Oh, and Sunny Daly is with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
Hi. Sunny's the one who does all the real work. But I just wanted to thank the hospital and the foundation and all of you here for this absolutely extraordinary opportunity. For the last few years, Health Imperatives has been working very closely with the Community Foundation and the town and the hospital to really increase access to our services. We provide health care, sexual and reproductive health care, WIC services for nutrition assistance for low-income families and children, and home visiting programs for teen parents, which had previously been eliminated by state funding. So this grant essentially allows us to double our capacity on island, which I think is what we've been calling a game changer, a real opportunity to not only reach many, many more island residents who are really need our support, but also change policy. I was saying earlier this morning that about a year ago, the Department of Public Health was estimating that we were meeting the need on Nantucket for WIC services, and we thought, we can't be because we're not able to be here full time, and we're only seeing about 167 people. They this year released an updated study that took into account the extraordinary population growth and the different groups who previously had not been counted in that count, and found that we're meeting less than 30% of the need. So there are 600 families who we will hopefully be providing nutrition assistance with, and we'll also be greatly expanding our sexual and reproductive health services to be on island more often, but also to expand our HIV prevention program as well. So we are absolutely thrilled, and we'll look forward to continuing to work with all the various partners in this room to meet the needs of families without creating another whole system, but really integrating our services. So thank you. This is, I think, a model not only for Massachusetts, but for the country. And I will be bragging about it to everyone who will listen to me across the country. Thank you. Oh, can I just say thank you to Julian Sear, Senator, who used to be on our board and helped us with this vision.
So the next recipient is the Mariah Mitchell Association, and Dave Gagnon, Executive Director of Mariah Mitchell, will be accepting, and I believe Shelley Dresser is with him.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Great. So thanks. Well, first of all, I want to thank the Community Foundation for Nantucket to put together this whole, ran this whole process through. It was really exciting to work with them, and of course, Jean and Margareta. Also want to thank the hospital and Margot for making this all possible. Actually, we'd like to talk a little later about using your team just for a couple of weeks to help with. It is the end of the year, we have a great development team, but you have it would be wonderful. So I'm speaking today on behalf of the Mariah Mitchell Association, along with our collaborators, the Land Bank, Nantucket Star, the Nantucket Community School, the Institute for Community Inclusion at the University of Massachusetts in Boston, Nantucket Parks and Recreation, and many parents that we work with in undergoing this process. So what are we doing? We're collaborating to develop fully accessible, socially inclusive, STEAM-based, I'm saying STEM, so science, technology, engineering, art, and math, outdoor play, fitness, and gathering space for all ages on Old South Road. We're very excited about it. So this is the first step. A few features of it: 85 to 90% of the play space will be wheelchair accessible. It will contain components that are important for sensory integration. Additionally, it'll have significant STEM components. It'll bring science education to the public in a creative and meaningful way. Think about a swing set, right? Swing back and forth, kind of like a pendulum, right? There's all this physics that go on around that. When you look at other activities in a playground, it involves biomechanics, the human motion. So when somebody gets injured, right, they can then have a better understanding of what that means and how people move their muscles. So we're really excited about adding that component. And this was really Shelley's inspired and was very excited about some of the other playgrounds that she had seen. Right, and by something Jean said. It was just an amazing process. So there are 374 school-age children that live within walking distance of the location of the land bank property that we're looking at, or that we'll be doing it at, that are walking distance to this playground. And there's actually a new development not close by that'll add many, many more children. So we're really excited that this will be a highly used facility. So, and Shelley mentioned this, and she said you have to tell the story. So I'm going to quickly do that. In researching the design for this playground, with our many collaborators, we visited a playground in Bourne, Massachusetts. And when we got there, it was almost like a setup. There's this beautiful playground, fully handicapped accessible. There was a gentleman there with his two children, and he was able to go from one activity to another and be right with them, to help them, to encourage them. And he was able to be right there, not calling from the side of the playground, but right there with them. And that really sort of moved us and inspired us. And yeah, he was in a wheelchair. Yeah, so, but that's an important point, actually, because anybody could do it if you weren't in a wheelchair. So this is why Shelley is here, so, among other things. So anyway, there were two deaf adults that were working. It was just amazing. There's all sorts of folks participating and having a great time and learning. So that provided us the inspiration for this project, and we want to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to take this first step and move forward. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, our next grant recipient is the Nantucket Community School, and we're going to invite Pauline Cronin and Cheryl Reichwein to accept this. We also have Michael Kozert and Caitlin Waddington in the audience as well.
Thank you. We are so grateful to the Nantucket Cottage Hospital Community Health Initiative for this funding that's been made available to us. Connecting to families to ensure the well-being of all its members is a top priority of Nantucket Community School, and we feel really passionate about that. As Early Childhood Program Coordinator, I'm aware of the pressing needs of the island's young families, especially during those early months of new parenthood when unexpected challenges are sure to arise. Research has shown that one of the most effective programs in addressing mental, physical, social health, and well-being of these family members is home visiting. Receiving this funding will allow us to train current staff and recruit additional staff and volunteers to make this home visiting happen. I wrote this grant in partnership with Cheryl Reichwein, our Adult Ed Coordinator, and she's going to help assist us in making the training happen on island.
So we're so excited to have this opportunity because the numbers are, as we know, growing, and that every study that we've seen shows that the most return on investment is really with these home visiting programs. We were able to develop a framework for what we want to include in the training, and we knew that there was no way that we could do it right with the budget that we had. So this is really going to make it possible to do the sort of in-depth training here on island for staff and to recruit volunteers that'll expand the program to really meet the needs. We're going to include communication skills and rapport building that are particularly sensitive to the growing needs of our diverse community. We're going to work with translators and hopefully we'll be training people in many of the languages that are on the island, so that too will be able to have them be comfortable going into the homes. We're going to conduct a general assessment of mother-baby well-being. We're going to give community service information so that we can connect them, which is a big part of the mission, not only to our programs, but to the programs of everyone here in the room. And we're going to train them on something called ASQ, which is an age and stage questionnaire, which is going to help the parent be able to themselves have a very early assessment of the growth of the child. It's the standard in the industry, and it's really going to help to be able to, because as we all know, early intervention is really the key to future success. So we're excited to get started. We thank you, and we look forward to connecting and welcoming more young families to this wonderful, loving community. Thanks.
You know where it is. Oh, okay. Okay.
Next we have Small Friends on Nantucket, and Courtney Bridges, Executive Director, is going to be accepting.
That's right, 2 for 1 up here. I always love these breakfasts because I get to look out and see all the key players in our community, and I'm really thankful for this partnership between the hospital and the Community Foundation so that we can all come together and make some progress for our little island. Small Friends is the only large group licensed center on the island that serves families with children as young as 3 months and as old as 5 years. We've been doing this work for 30 years on the island. But we're faced with a new challenge today, and I brought the challenge with me. It's one of my favorite binders. It's the waitlist binder. In here are 134 families as of yesterday. We had 2 new families join on the wait list. And these are teachers, they are DPW workers, and community members. They are doctors, and all of the important role players on our island who need care for their very young children. And all children do deserve this quality care. So in order to decide if Small Friends can grow, if we can serve more families, we need to do some research. And this is the grant that allows us to move forward and to make that progress. And so I'm very grateful that we have the ability to do the research and the homework that we need to do to make smart growth at Small Friends for the benefit of our community. Thank you.
I love props.
Next, we have Sustainable Nantucket. We have Michelle Whalen, Kaylin Duke, and Emily Graves, all here from Sustainable Nantucket. I think Michelle and Kaylin are going to accept.
We're hugging today. You're welcome. And new friends.
Hi, everybody. First of all, it is such a pleasure and a privilege to be here, and we're so grateful for the support of our amazing community of donors, Nantucket Cottage Hospital, the Community Health Initiative, our group of volunteer grant reviewers, and Jane Miller from the Community Foundation, of course, and the Community Foundation in general. As you know, Sustainable Nantucket runs a farm-to-school program. It is based at the Joyce and Furman Youth Garden on Nantucket Public School property. And that is where we teach through the hands-on process of growing and tasting and cooking food in our garden and in the cafeteria and in farm fields. We teach children about agriculture, we teach them about environmental stewardship, and we teach them about nutrition. So I would like to introduce to you our new farm-to-school coordinator, Kaylin Duke, who came to us actually in September. She comes from a background of teaching. She's been teaching for over 15 years and has a master's in curriculum development, and we're very, very lucky to have gotten her. And Kaylin actually helped us to write this grant even before she started. So she started in September, but she was writing the grant before she even came into the office. So she knows the plan, and I'm going to let her talk to you about it. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Just yesterday, I was helping administer a nutrition pretest to a group of first graders. And the first question was, is it a good idea to eat fruits and vegetables every day? And they all agreed yes, enthusiastically. Yes, you should do that. And next we asked, should you eat food from all food groups every day? And most said yes, but a few weren't sure. When we asked if you should eat a lot of foods that are high in oil and sugar, like cookies and candy, it was clear they knew the answer, but they were hesitant in answering, as if the right answer might mean they would never be allowed those treats again. While many children are no doubt receiving nutrition education at home, it may be new to some. And good nutrition practices always bear repeating. Thank you to the Nantucket Cottage Hospital and the Community Health Initiative for your generous grant to support Sustainable Nantucket's nutrition project. With this grant, we'll be able to bolster children's understanding of healthy eating through programs such as Garden Explorers, ACT Farming and Gardening, and our Farm to Fork classes. Thank you so much for your generous support.
Next page. Even with it's big, I can't see it.
Next, we have Fairwinds Counseling Center with Tess DeAlberti. Did I say it right? Executive Director accepting. Thank you, Tess.
I know it's a difficult last name. Thank you so much. First off, Dr. Hartman, the entire Nantucket Cottage Hospital, and the Community Foundation, thank you for making this possible for our entire community. It genuinely takes a village. We're really excited to be part of this. Fairwinds, previously Family and Children's Service for the last 60 years, has been committed to being an integral part of making our community happier and healthier. This grant will be supporting one bilingual provider in our community to be a mass health connector. We on average serve about 72% low-income individuals. Our last fiscal year, we had 500 people in treatment on any given day and over 30,000 appointments. We recognize that people are coming in by the droves, and we see this as a really positive sign because this is people who want to make great change in their lives. Happier kids, happier families, a happier community.
One of the things that this grant will be funding is an IT software that is going to track every single thing we do looking at social determinants of need. We recognize that housing and food and childcare are critical parts of wellness, and we want to be able to figure out at what level this is a challenge and then share that with the community. We really are grateful of being part of this, and thank you for making this a great 2018 for us. Thanks.
We have our second NAMI grant, National Alliance on Mental Health, and we'd like to welcome Ruth Blount to talk about the David Glidden Travel Fund.
When someone needs to travel off island for behavioral health treatment, especially during a crisis, it's a very stressful time for both the individual and the family. It's a time when there are many unexpected financial strains on top of whatever complications the illness brings. Thanks to the generous grant from Nantucket Cottage Hospital's Community Health Initiative, the David Glidden Memorial Travel Fund can provide financial assistance during these times. This could include travel, lodging, care for children left at home, or other unexpected expenses. This fund will significantly relieve emotional and financial stress for families and individuals during this very sensitive time. We at NAMI on Nantucket are grateful for your assistance in making it possible for us to come alongside these families. Thank you.
So our next recipient is Habitat for Humanity, and Joe Grouse, president, will be accepting.
Thanks very much. Good morning, everyone. I think many people probably know something about Habitat. Habitat for Humanity here on Nantucket has been operating since 2001. We've constructed actually about 8 houses. We have 2 more going at the moment. And we serve the community that is in the 50 to 80% AMI category. So we build homes for ownership for lower income folks here on Nantucket. When I came on the board 5 years ago, we took 3 years to build a home. It was fairly slow. Over the last 5 years, working with the board and our construction committee and many volunteers, and actually many people in the trades and the Nantucket Builders Association, we've been able to accelerate our building program to the point where today we're actually building 2 homes in Satron's Path at the same time. And our application for this grant was to help us to continue that pace of construction by building 2 more homes on a road that will be called Wake Drive. It's not named yet, but right around the 6 Fairgrounds project. So I wanted to take the opportunity this morning to thank the hospital, the Community Foundation for Nantucket, the town of Nantucket that provides land. We couldn't do this without land, and money is the second part. And really thank the whole community for supporting our work here on Nantucket over the last 15, 16 years. So thank you very much.
Next, we have the Nantucket Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and we have Linda Williams here, and I think Brian Sullivan was going to be here. Just Linda. He's fishing. He's fishing. All right. Linda.
Okay, then. Wait a minute, I gave you the wrong. Did I give you the wrong?
No, I got the right check.
Okay, good. I'm
take it back
I'm
now.
afraid once you give it to her, you're not going to get it back.
You're not getting it back. I was drafted, I'm the vice chair of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which is the town's entity for affordable housing. And I was drafted last night to do this without telling me I had to get duded up and without telling me I needed to give a speech. But everybody who's been to town meeting knows how I can speak extemporaneously on any subject. So first I would like to thank the Cottage Hospital and Community Foundation for this grant. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund has been around for probably 7 or 8 years, I've forgotten, I've been on from the beginning. And we are now constituted with a tremendous group of volunteer board members. There's 7 of us. And we're here to work with public-private partnerships to create housing opportunities. We have recently paid for the closing costs, which run somewhere from $10,000 to $15,000 for 25 affordable housing. We've covered all of the 22 for second phase of C.H.I.P's. We've covered a couple in Beach Plum, and we have one independent who have bought an independent covenant lot. These people, the 6,800 sewer is enough for them to not be able to get into their homes. The closing costs are just one more tick too much for them to be able to afford to close on their homes. Without the help from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, none of these property owners would have been able to close and get into their homes. We have someone here who was able to get into his first house, and he's got 1 child and 1 on the way. There are a lot of people in there. We all know them. Some are teachers, some are firefighters, architects, you name it, we've got them in there, and it's a very family-friendly subdivision. We'd like to continue with this. The Community Preservation Committee has awarded money for closing costs and other public-private partnerships. They only go up to 100%. This grant will allow us to continue to fund the coveted homes from 100% to 150. And we've got more coming in, and 150, you think 150 of median income is a lot of money. It's not on Nantucket. So we thank you very much for supporting us and helping us to continue our mission of getting people into housing of all kinds. Thank you. Oh, wait. We've also given $400,000 to 6 fairgrounds. Most of those units are restricted in some respect for the 30%, the 60%, and the 120%. So we're partnering up with Halkeen Management and the town to help push that project along. Thank you. Now you can clap.
Before we do our last one, I just want to make sure that everyone who has received a grant got the message to stay after so we can do a little photo shoot. So all the grant recipients, please stay. Our final grant is for the Nantucket Civic League, and we have Peter Morrison, co-president, accepting.
Hello, everyone. I am one of the 2 co-presidents of the Civic League. My fellow co-president, Charlie Stott, is the one who is grounded in reality, and I'm the resident idea hamster. So we make a great pair together. And I'm sorry Charlie can't be here because I know he'd like to say something, but I'm here to thank you for supporting our effort to explore new ways to help house our town employees. This initiative exemplifies the Civic League's central mission, which is to be an incubator for ideas and initiatives to advance the public good. Our pilot test builds on the scientific insights of demographic research and behavioral economics. Simply put, there is living space that's available, and there are people who need a place to live. And the question we ask is, can we connect the two by stretching people's thinking? Our central premise is that some Nantucketers, and I emphasize some few Nantucketers, may be amenable and, practically speaking, able to house people who serve us all. These are the special people who care for us at the Cottage Hospital, the people who respond to our emergencies, and the people who nurture and inspire our children. We can all think back to the emergency room visit, to the police officer who trudged through a crippling blizzard to check on an elderly couple, or that teacher who sparked your daughter's determination to pursue a scientific career. Most Nantucketers are eager to give back to the community, and we think that some small fraction might be persuaded to open empty space for rent. Family traditions within our diverse Nantucket communities offer us visible social templates, the extended families that share space with relatives and friends. And the question we pose in this pilot test is, might there be other templates that resonate with families' changing circumstances? Demographic change has expanded the possibilities. We have empty nesters with half-empty homes or an adjoining studio apartment. We have persons who are recently widowed. We have seasonal homeowners who welcome a responsible family, or a couple of police officers perhaps, occupying their guest house and watching over the property. Our pilot test aims to validate this premise and to shed light on these possibilities as a prelude to an implementation phase next year. So thanks for funding this startup on Nantucket's future.
For me, one of the themes of this event is collaboration, and the hospital is thrilled to be a catalyst for the collaboration that is happening in the network of this community. We don't have the skill sets to do everything. It's not in our wheelhouse. That's nowhere more obvious than in processing with integrity, grant applications, and the delivery of that service. We were thrilled to collaborate with the Community Foundation for Nantucket, so I just want to acknowledge that. Please. And most particularly Kathy Ward, who's on the board of the hospital and the Community Foundation for Nantucket, and who has been tireless as a giver to this community. So once again, I'm thrilled that we were all here this morning participating in this initiative. And please remember, this is the first of 5 years, so get ready to do it all again. Thank you. Well done.